Bronya Goffman.
My name is Bronya Borisovna Goffman. I was 27 years old when the war started in 1941. I was living in Minsk with my infant daughter. I remember the first German soldiers arrived on motorcycles and stopped just in front of my house. The Germans began gathering up all the Jewish people. When someone asked, "What you will do with all the Jewish people?" they said, "You will be kaput." The first thing the Germans did was make everybody wear the yellow star as the sign of the Jews. In a few weeks, there was a large order for all the Jewish people to gather in one place. The Germans arranged a special district, a ghetto. Everyone who didn't already live in that city district had to move there. Since we already lived within the territory the Germans set out for the ghetto, we didn't have to move, but we had to take families from other districts of the city into our flat. There were 5 of us: me and my daughter, my parents and a cousin. Then there were 6 or 7 other people. We didn't know them. They were told to live with us. On the 20th of November, 1941, the Germans made a huge raid in the ghetto. My daughter and my parents died during this raid. I was left by myself. I decided I must escape because I was on my own. I did not have any documents for identification. I knew I had no chance to survive without the documents. I thought that during the raid nobody would be brave enough to escape. The ghetto police and soldiers were very busy. I thought this would be the perfect day. I was very, very careful. And like a cat, I went under the barbed wire. I escaped with a plan. I went to the district where my uncle lived. He was a tailor. The fascists needed tailors, so they let them live outside the ghetto. Eventually they killed him. I lived with the manager of the printing plant and his wife. I was like their chambermaid. I did their washing and cleaning. One day I met a man who also worked in the printing house. He took me aside and asked me, "Do you believe in the victory of our army?" I replied, "Of course I believe, because there is no use to live without faith." So he said, "Then you must help us." One day we got a task to print a newspaper, so more people could know what was happening with the underground. It was a very difficult and dangerous task to print this in the printing house. The underground knew I had the keys, so it became my responsibility to open the doors. It was not possible to do this during the day. It was so dangerous. I could only do this during the night. But I was afraid we would be noticed. I told the printing chief's wife that I did not have enough time to finish all my tasks during the day, so I must stay at night. She said it was okay. There were other Jews involved, and we did the printing in the basement. We worked quietly in a small room in the basement. We had a single lamp for the light that we had to keep covered to keep other people from seeing the light. We could not stay there for a long time. We worked every night, but only for a very short time. It took us 1 month to assemble the paper. We had to use separate letters to make each word. We had to set each group of words into a frame, and then into sentences. When we finished, we started to distribute the papers to people in the ghetto. The Germans soon learned of the papers, but first they thought they came from Moscow on a plane. Then we started to work on the second newspaper. The Germans were not idiots, and they decided to learn where the papers were from. They began to learn about the letters' design style, so they could recognize them. The Gestapo sent for the head printer from our plant and started to ask him questions. He pretended not to know anything. He pretended to be unaware. Later, another man who was a printer and involved with the underground told us the Germans thought they recognized the printing, but they were not sure. He told us that we must be very careful. 2 days later, the Gestapo came again. Another man who worked at the print plant came up to me while I was cleaning and said, "The Gestapo is here." I had to pluck up all my courage, be brave, and decide to do something very quickly. I went to my friend and said, "Boris, we must run away. The Gestapo is here." We went into the yard. There were many German soldiers around, but they didn't take notice of us. We kept going through the gate until we were in the street. We began to walk along the street, but it was winter, and Boris wanted a jacket so he wouldn't look so noticeable. He went back to get his jacket, and the Gestapo took him. Near what is now the Academy of Sciences, we had a flat that the conspirators used. I waited there for Boris, but he did not come. I never saw him again. I spent 2 days at the flat alone, until the owner of the flat, who was also a participant in the underground, found out about the arrests at the printing company. He came and said that the Germans were looking for me everywhere. He made me move to another flat, because it was very dangerous to stay where I was. I moved to the other flat and stayed 4 days there with some girl who was living there. I stayed with this girl until a German officer who was in love with her came and asked who I was. The girl told the German officer that I was a friend she was taking care of during this time. When a person from the underground heard about the German officer's questions, he said that I could not stay there anymore and made me move to another spot. It was very dangerous to move on the streets, because there were so many German soldiers around, and I looked typically Jewish. But I was lucky and got to another flat. I spent 2 more weeks hiding in the other flat, until a partisan group came for me. They came with a milk cart and dressed me like a peasant girl. It was this way that I was able to escape from Minsk. We went west to the forests and found the Partisans group. I stayed with the Partisans from August 1942 until July 1944, after the liberation of Minsk. I got married to a partisan man, and we made a family too. I lived with my husband for 53 years. It is impossible to tell all the stories, since there are so many memories. My husband was also a partisan, who participated in many actions. They did not take him prisoner, thank God.